Welcome back to everyone to Jface Games. Today we're talking about the Plot Die. If you're not aware, Cosmere TTRPG, which used to be the Stormlight RPG, is on Kickstarter right now and it's crushing. And I wanted to talk about the Plot Die. Okay, so here's the deal. When a lot of people who are more accustomed to tabletop RPGs, there's a subset of people that are just really into mechanics. They want to know what new mechanics are being added to a game. So if you really broke down a game, it has its theme and it has its mechanics. Some people just want really good theme. Some people, they don't really care as much about the theme. They want good mechanics. This happens in the board game community too, where people just want to see what are new ways that people are using tried and true and trusted mechanics and changing them and twisting them in a way to make them feel different. Because a perfect game is, and there's no perfect games, but games that are really beloved, have themes and mechanics that meld. The mechanics and what you have to do with the dice or what you have to do with whatever it is makes it feel like you're actually doing the thing that is the theme, and that feels really good. Now, when I first saw the Plot Die, it kind of bounced off me because the idea of success with consequence or failure with an opportunity, like the whole yes and no but scenario has been done. Right? Lots of people have seen this, and so when I first saw this die a while back, I believe, I was like, man, it's a custom die. Some people don't like having custom die because you have to buy it. And I haven't really enjoyed a lot of yes and no but games, right? I do like some. I waxed poetic about the game Quest a long time back, and I really loved that. And it did have a yes and or a no but sort of scenario to it. But a lot of times I find that it's exhausting, right? It's exhausting as a GM to constantly be coming up with those. So what is it about the Plot Die that I've now realized that I really like? And it took some understanding about more of the mechanics, right? You gotta know what else is going on. So yes, there is this idea of success with consequence, right? Or failure with complication. And this has existed in other games, and sometimes it's referred to yes and no but, or yes but no and, those kind of things. And so when I first saw this, I thought, oh, this is another sort of twist on that, and I haven't been a huge fan of those. But what does this do differently? The first thing it does is it's not exhausting, because the only time you're going to roll this plot die with your main resolution, which is in this game a d20. So just to give it clarity, you're rolling a d20, you're adding some bonuses to it, and you're trying to beat a certain number that the game master gives you. And in this game, you do that, but you also roll this plot die with it. So you don't do it every time. So that off the bat takes away the exhaustion. So it's only certain situations that are, I'm going to put they right? So what does that mean? The player now is incentivized to have a turn where they're doing something a little bit extra, right? If they want to use the plot die, because it is a risk. So if they want to use the plot die, they're going a little above and beyond. They're saying, oh, I want to do this, and I'm going to flip over this, and I'm going to do this. And the GM is going to say, yeah, okay, use the plot die. We're going to roll it. On the same side, the GM might be saying that something the enemy is doing that's very significant, and it might turn the story in a weird way, so roll the plot die. Now, when you roll the plot die, what happens is 2 of its sides are opportunities, 2 of its sides are complications, and 2 of the sides are nothing. So that means that there is just as good of a chance that something awesome happens for you as something bad happens for you, okay? And so that's like do I really want to do that? Now, the good thing is that you'll see a 4 here and you'll see a 2 here. Those 2 sides that have complications, they actually make it so you do a better job at succeeding at whatever the task was. And so that's really good. So this game is already hedging towards you succeeding with the complication, right? That's another nice little twist. It's making sure that you don't, it's not just an all-out fail and something bad happens. So that's cool. So I love that. I love that it's a little bit more incentivizing players to come up with really cool stuff. Now, it was brought up in the comment section of my last video of, isn't every dice roll supposed to be meaningful? I agree. However, it depends on the style of game you're playing. If it's a more narrative game, like Fate or Codex Prime, then what's going to happen is they might be sweeping a lot of actions in a scene underneath one die roll. So you could actually have a whole fight exist within one die roll. Whereas games that are a little more tactical, what happens is every action is a roll, and so not every one of them has to be this amazing thing. Sometimes someone's just attacking, right? Now, that's okay, right? It depends on the type of game you're playing. So we don't want this to happen every single attack. So I like that already. Now, what else? It's important to understand also, what is an opportunity? What is this boon that you're getting when you get an opportunity? Well, in some games, you have what's called a critical success. And a critical success, for instance, in Dungeons & Dragons, means you do a lot of damage, right? It's like double damage in essence, right? So you're doing like double damage. And so getting a 20 on a 20-sided dice is a critical, awesome moment. Everyone feels great about it, but it only happens about 5% of the time you're rolling because it's one side on the 20-sided dice. What this does is that an opportunity equals a critical success in this game. Now, it's not just that you're doing max damage. That's not what it does. It actually means that you're going to do one of a couple things. Either you're going to do max damage. You have a choice. You're going to either do max damage, you're going to aid an ally, you're going to gain focus, or you're going to change the narrative, right? In essence, you're adding something to the scene that gives a little bit more. A complication is the opposite of that. You would do, I think it's a miss, all these things would be negatives. I don't have the list of that. But, so what this already means is that your chances of getting a critical success now goes from a 5% to a 33+% technically, because you're still rolling the D20. So by doing something dramatic, or doing something a little extra, or trying to do something a little crazy, your chances of getting a critical success goes through the roof, which is really cool. I think that's a really great idea. What else is really cool about this? Well, advantage, I just found this out. Someone who knows more about the game than I do, apparently, because I don't know a ton about the game yet. I just know about this mechanic. But they knew a little bit more. They added a comment in the last video, and they said that when you have advantage, you can use it with the plot die. So what does that mean? Typically, in Dungeons & Dragons, and there's a couple other games that have used advantage, disadvantage, what that means is that you are going to roll a dice twice and take the best result, or roll a dice twice and take the worst result. So typically, that means you take 2d20, which are your attacking dice. They're the ones that are telling you whether you're successful or not. And you're rolling them both, and you're taking the higher one because you want to be successful. Now, technically in this game, you can use that advantage on any of the dice you're rolling. So you roll an attack, you could be rolling the d20 to see if it hits. You roll the damage dice, so seeing how much damage you do, and you roll the plot dice to see if you get a little extra something. You can technically choose which of those dice you're going to have advantage with. So that means that now it's even higher of an opportunity, or even higher of a chance that you're going to get an opportunity or get that sort of maximum damage or change in narrative, etc. So that's really neat. I think that's a really great way of giving the player a lot more opportunity to change their fates without putting in a system where it's like here's a inspiration token. You get to spend this whenever you want, and that gives too much sway for the player to shift this scenario. This way, they have to do something. They have to say, I'm going to jump on that chandelier and swing over there. I'm going to walk up to that diplomat and call them this word. And so it's forcing them to do something in order to then get the result hopefully they want, as opposed to just, I've saved up this meta currency, so here it is, and now it's going to happen. The final thing, which I thought was awesome, that I just learned about, is that there's a game called Forged in the Dark, and it had a mechanic that a lot of people love, which are these time clocks, right? And what these time clocks are in essence pie charts that are empty. So it's like a circle, and maybe there's it's cut in 4, or it's cut in 6, or it's cut in 8. And they are representations of time occurring. So you do something successful, you fill in a chart towards this goal, right? And so in that game, you might have 6 of these little pie circles out on the board, and it was really cool because the players could see, oh, we're moving towards this goal over here, but we can see that this alarm's about to go off and all these extra guards are going to come if that fills. And so what you're doing, the DM is then circling or filling in these little slices of the pie, and you can see how time is kind of potentially moving towards good or bad things or long-term things. Well, in this game, what they've done is they've sort of extrapolated this. And so in a scenario, so you might have an encounter, and in that encounter, the GM might say four opportunities, and X happens, or 4 complications and Y happens, right? And so now you might be finishing this encounter the normal way. So let's say it's a combat encounter. So one way of finishing this combat encounter might be we have to kill all the enemies, or we have to subdue them, or we have to break their morale, whatever. But now it might be in 4 opportunities, our allies arrive, or in 4 opportunities, that's what actually breaks their morale, right? So it's either A, you have to wipe them off the map, or B, if we can get 4 opportunities, we're actually going to break their morale. But if we get 4 complications, this is going to happen. Our morale breaks, or their backup arrives. So all of this exists now within just this little die, right? That's pretty clever. That's pretty clever to mix in Forged in the Dark time clocks, advantage, disadvantage, critical successes, critical hits, all of that being wrapped into just adding this die. And you don't have to roll this die on you shouldn't roll this die on every action. It should be coming up in a meaningful way, or when you kind of call for it. So it promotes all of this. What I like about this is, in essence, there's a lot of mechanical background, right? Here are the mechanics behind what we want to do. But in order to engage in those mechanics, you have to roleplay, right? You have to come up with cool things to do, right? And this doesn't have to mean I need to talk in a voice, but it's like you're engaging with the story of the encounter that you're in, and you're trying to come up with ways to make it a little bit, wishy-washy, where you're doing things that aren't just positive boons. You're doing things that are now up to the fates, and you're finding out what happens. So I think this is really clever. I'm really sold on this dice, and I have a feeling you're going to see some of this getting seeped into other games in the future.